What the fuck?
Yeah, 27 seconds. It's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. There. It's just super odd timing. Super weird time, but all right.
It doesn't matter where, so you just pick one, you know?
Yeah, it just happens. All right.
You're listening to the Heroes Play Vibe Check podcast. We're out here with episode 2. I'm your host, Empress Quinn, and I've got my homie Cole here with me. Say what's up, Cole.
What's up? It's crazy. It's already episode 2.
All right, we're out here doing this thing. So yeah, let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's talk about some recently played commanders and whether or not they passed the Heroes Played Vibe Check. Me personally, I played a Corvold Fakehurst King deck pretty recently. That is probably my favorite legendary dragon, sorry. And he absolutely passes the vibe check, because that guy picks up the knife, and once again we are at the 3-hit clock immediately with 7 power. So, and then he enters and eats a thing and gets another +1/+1 counter. So he's even bigger. It's just free power, and then I'll just end you with my flying threat. So that's where my first one is. What do you have for us, Cole?
Despite the fact that I didn't add that much to the dock this time, I did have quite a few this weekend. But first and foremost, Tanos the Toymaker is my mutate / mostly beasts with a splash of birds deck around mutating piles of horrendous creatures. Does not pass the vibe check because I'm not turning that boy sideways. It's the show of the beasts and the mutate and the artifact mutate on top of those creatures. Does Simic bullshit things. Does not need an equipment that gives a +3/+2 to swing out, unfortunately.
Well, I feel that not every commander passes the vibe check. I have one more that I played pretty recently that does not pass the vibe check, and that is Ghost Shintai of Life's Origin. That mostly is there to be a Wooburg Enchantress Reanimator, a button in the command zone so that I can just, drag back something heinous and 7 mana from my graveyard and not pay retail for it. And it's not doing anything with combat. That's a burn deck, basically. We've got the Forced Fruition and Underworld Dreams and the Vicious Shadows and all that stuff. So I'm just I'm not doing a whole lot with the combat step in that deck.
Yeah. A deck that I played on the weekend was Mr. Orfeo the Boulder. And I would definitely say he does pass the vibe check. In my build, it's all about ball lightning or ball lightning-like cards, or good power and toughness, but mostly focused on power. Usually has haste and maybe some kind of evasion, like trample or flying or something. And while a bulk of them are not legendary and therefore don't get the sword equipped to them, turns out making Mr. Orfeo go from 2 to 5 and then giving himself double power to go to 10 can end games. And one of the weird situations I ran into this week as I was wanting to preach this new show and start playing Heroes Blade and everything, which I got a fun tangent about that later. I recently put together a Dargo the Shipwrecker and the new pirate partner Francisco together.
Oh.
I took apart my Kalane Reclusive Painter deck and kind of had most of the shell still there. And I was like, all right, cool. Where's my copy of Heroes Blade? And as it turns out, I have actually effectively run out of Heroes Blades within my collection. And I know I have I don't have as many Soul Rings as I have, but I know that they're around somewhere. So I managed to swap I swapped a Heroes Blade out of one deck that didn't actually need it, and then I put it in that one, and you will see a Heroes Bladed Francisco and or Dargo at a commander table near you, I'm sure.
That's very exciting. Also, we gotta get our hands on more copies of Heroes Blade, because, like, we're gonna run the price up on that, obviously. And
Yeah.
we need to be prepared for it.
Yes, because now that I am no longer the uncommon card guy, I now must play Heroes Blade in every commander deck, just because I have a theme now, and I just have to do it.
Yeah, dude, commitment to the bit.
No, we will not be doing that.
All right, anyway, I guess I want to talk about a tweet, I think, that we saw on Twitter. I forget who it was, but what they wanted to know the, like, over, under on ratios of, like, color combos in your deck, and whether or not you're playing, like, 3+ colors or, like, 1 to 2 colors. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I want to feel like, God, was it Tomer or I don't know, Twitter. Sometimes you think that maybe I would put the source sometimes, so at least I have some context of who said it. You know, maybe it was Shivam or maybe it was someone else, but like the discussion of like, what is the ratio of color combos in your collective pool of decks, your current rotation or whatever it was. And I think the number I came up with was that like 19 or so of my decks, of which I have currently 51, are 3 or more colors, but the majority of them are either 2 colors or less, just because over the years I found it's just easier to build a 2-color deck now with a lot of solid strategies, solid strengths and gameplay patterns. But you also have access to a lot of budgetary lands and mana resources, so it's easier to make sure that you hit. You're like, I need, I don't know, 15 non-basic lands for my Azorius deck, so I make sure I can hit my triple pip spell or something, you know? So yeah, the ratio is like, what is it, like about 2 to 1, give or take, for me, in terms of like less colors versus more.
That's extremely funny to me, because mine are definitely in that 3+ colors ratio by like a 4 to 1 ratio. I think it was 11 in the first quantity, and I have 50 something decks, so the rest of those are 3+ colors.
Right, and a majority of them are Grixis in color combination, right?
I can actually do a count, but I do think a significant portion of them are Grixis, yeah. No way. Hashtag Grixis mean girls.
If there was any other color combination, I'd be shocked and surprised.
Yeah, I'm out here. So I guess on the subject of mana bases, it feels like fixing has never been better. I have a 4-color dinosaur reanimator deck that plays an unnatural growth because I can make sure that I have that green to cast that spell. And it's not hard.
Yeah, I wish that WotC would finish certain cycles at this point. Like, there's no reason that there should not be enemy color combo cycling lands with, like, the 2 basic land subtypes. You know, like those cycles should be completed at this point. I don't know why they either go back to older ones or oh, we're gonna reprint the other ones again. It's like, listen, I've seen like 20 Prairie streams. Can I get my weird, funky Simic or Boros cycling land? That'd be great, thank you. But
yeah, I am Judge Judy tapping her watch dock.
Yeah, like anytime.
Can I have the other half of that cycle, please?
Now, that being said, you know, we're again reaching a point of, like, another sort of Masters, like, reprint set with Ravnica Remastered coming out around the corner, and we're getting a bunch of Shockland reprints, which is great. And who knows, like, Shocklands are always one of those lands that, like, somehow maintain their cost over time. Like, yeah, they used to be pretty ludicrous back, like, a decade ago.
It's and then they get played everywhere that they can be played.
Yeah. Like, I mean, hey, I do love, who doesn't love a turn 1, you know what, I guess I'm gonna shock myself or play a fetch land, and then also shock myself, and then also do some other stuff. It's... They're good lands. I just also would like to search for other dual lands that are not, like, Alpine Meadow or something.
When you're
like
out here with the fetch, shock, Esper Sentinel bullshit, I'm just like, alright.
Hey, alright, I'm ready to draw cards. Like, get out of here, but yeah. So, Watsy, just, do the job, please. Thank you.
I would super appreciate it. Heart emoji.
And yeah, in terms of news, I like how last week I was like, man, all this news is happening. All these people are doing these things. Hermit Druid came home from a trip to Mexico and had a cool time. We'll see what comes out of that editing-wise because of all the recording stuff that he had. But apparently, relative success with a bunch of cool Magic games, so that sounds great.
Yeah, I got a bunch of cool new follows, or like people to follow from that experience, so glad about
that. And although I believe I misspoke about the In Honor of Sheldon Mannery charity event for the Moffitt Cancer Center, I think I misspoke and somehow said 500,000, I think, when I went back over the editing, and I was like, yeah, I think I accidentally added an extra zero on their goal of $50,000. And thankfully, they did reach their goal by over 5K. I tweeted Beth earlier today, and she got back to me and said that the final result, after matching donations and further donations that happened after the weekend stream, was $55,431.62. So, good fucking job, Magic community. You fucking crushed it.
Hell yeah, way to go, gamers.
I also think Alan from Mental Misplay matched... I don't know if he matched like 50%, but like he was willing to throw down a lot of money, as he usually does when it comes to these things. So I think it was on Sunday that they breached the 25K mark. And then they're like, cool, so with matching donations, we just do it. I'm like, okay, wow, holy shit. It's, as usual, another success for a good cause.
Yeah, we love to see what we're capable of.
Now, I do think there are some Magic Cons coming up, but I did not look too deeply into that because I had the audacity, I dare say, the balls to become a Magic protagonist on Twitter for the day somehow. Around this,
you sure were posting.
Yeah, turns out every once in a while you throw out a dumb idea and then everyone responds to it a lot. So there was, hey, let's talk about Rule Zero for a second, because that's the phrasing, the terminology of Rule Zero is constantly overused compared to, like, pre-game chats, which is, a completely separate thing. So let's get that distinction out of the way. When you get together in a Commander game, Quinn, did you know that most of the time nowadays, you can't just give a numerical metric, you just gotta explain what your deck does and what your goals are?
Yeah, I'm pretty experienced in the whole pre-game chat about what my deck does. That's a recipe for pretty good games in my experience. And
especially if you're playing with people who know you and know your deck in some way, so they can adjust or be like, fuck it, we ball, let's play it out and see what happens. So, pre-game chats are to clear the air and make sure that everyone's on the same wavelength, the same vibe, But as Commander is very popular, but despite it being very popular, having such a very expansive pool of cards that you can play with, there's still a plethora of cards that can't be played because they're silver bordered, they're banned in the Commander by the Commander Rules Committee, or they're technically not real true cards because you got them from like Gavin Verhey's draft experience at like a Magic Con or something,
yeah, like unknown event playtest cards.
Yeah, which are obviously very popular. Apparently, they're going for quite a high price too. Friend of the show, Benoit, has a card that apparently could theoretically be, like $300, I think, based off of people being like, I don't know, how much do you want this for? 300. Wait, what? All right.
It's that, but it's also just like the cards are in kind of short supply and pretty highly desirable. They are
truly the one out of one, the One Ring. Not $1 million, not $2.6 million in cost, but.
Like on my desk in front of me, I have Sword of Fire and Ice and War and Peace, which is exactly what it sounds like, both of those swords stapled together exactly, and Sword of Blank and Blank, which is you pick two halves of a Sword of X and Y and put them together. It's just like, cool cards, dude.
Yeah. It's just so outside of those cards, like availability and everything, there's obviously a large amount of cards that can't be played traditionally, unless you approach your friends or you approach the table with the discussion of a Rule Zero conversation, where, hey, I would like to play this deck that runs illegal, quotation marks, illegal Magic cards. Will you allow me to do that if I explain my case? And the judge says, no, go to jail. And, in one of my crazy fugue states of tweeting and somehow, poking the bear, the proverbial bear, the discussion, like, I can't remember who did it or how the trend was kind of going on. But people were like, hey, what if I did this really cool card combination of these two legendary creatures? And I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. I'm totally going to be that guy. But I think what you're trying to show us here is kind of a little busted. And then somehow it leaped off into me jokingly putting together the combination of the Flip Urabrask from March of the Machines, which is, love that version of Urabrask, and putting it together with Berkey, God of Storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a joke, but of course now both versions of those tweets have like way too much engagement, that I put it on mute because I'm like, this is too much now. But
there's a lot of people just now posting the most wild combinations of creatures and asking, would you be okay with this?
Yeah. And obviously we're kind of getting into a discussion of like, well, what's the usual scope of a Rule Zero combination? Because another friend of the show, Mr. Fitzy Fitz, is like, well, hey, I'm going to do streaming, but I want everyone to break the rules intentionally, as long as everyone agrees to like what level of the rules we're breaking, or like what's the power level. Because people want to put certain characters together as combinations because we do, once again, take a look at March of the Machine, Machines. Like, there's a lot of really cool character combinations that were happening on all the planes that we thought were like, this is the most wild shit that I've ever seen. Thalia and the Getrog, never in my life.
Did it.
Fibblefip and Borborygmos, they both have one eye. That is an amazing combination. So then we get to the next logical step of kind of going back to be like, hey, how come we can't have Safi and Eric's? Wait, no, am I missing?
Hans Eric's son and Safi Eric's daughter.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, like putting those two as a combination as Rule Zero partners is a neat concept because of their family. And so there's a very fine line between this is a logical partner combination that should work hypothetically, but because of what set they were printed in, they obviously would never have the partner text on them. But hey, if we do this for a game, how about I play the brothers Yamazaki from all the way back from Kamigawa? Or how about I play the cousins Yamazaki just as a throwback to the concept? Or how about I play Legolas counter of kills with Gimli counter of kills? And you're like, yeah, that would seem pretty fun. I don't, how what's the payoff? How does it work? You'll figure that out. We'll talk about it and figure it out. And don't do that. Get off my keyboard, sir. Do not be hitting that stop record key. Thank you. Anyway, but then, of course, people, the tweet that I originally put out was that because more people were following the trend, I'm like, for each would you let me rule 0 this pair post that I see, I'm trusting y'all less and less by the day. Because some of the combinations were heavily questionable. And then it just spiraled out of control out of there, because some people were being like, I could be trusted with this, and then we're like, no, obviously not. And it's just, luckily some people are taking it as a tenet of me being absolutely ridiculous, and they are, of course, jokingly putting the most ridiculous pair imaginable that you can think of, and you're like, please do not do that. And people are like, yeah, I would never do that. That's ridiculous. Why would we do that to ourselves? It's silly.
Or they do the, pointing fingers emoji. You can totally trust me to put Prosper, Tomebound, and Vega the Watcher together in the command zone. Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. It's like, no. Obviously, people want to put together their Bruna and Gisela deck, and Mr. Fitzy Fitz did that for a theme stream a few weeks ago in October for Halloween. But yeah, some people are just... You're riding a fine line there, friend.
I guess most importantly, it's kind of difficult to tell tone on the internet. Some of these are just absolutely I would never do this, I'm joking, and they haven't said that in text, but you can kind of tell. And other people, it's impossible to tell, so it's just all right, I'm going to read this as charitably as possible.
Yeah. I think what it really does come down to for a lot of these types of hypothetical questions when it comes to banning cards of Commander, unbanning cards, what is socially acceptable in a casual Commander game and everything, is that, again, it usually comes down to vibes and intentions. There's a lot of people I would inherently trust with making a Rule 0 deck because they're looking to explore untouched design space or ideas that are very underdeveloped. They're like, hey, let's see what we can do with it. And I want to see more of that. And I hope WotC somehow makes those cards or does that thing for people so that way they can don't have to hide behind the whole hey, I'm doing this deck. And most, I'm sure most people would be like, yeah, you could play your brother's Yamazaki deck. I know a few people that do that. Mm-hmm. Some people might not be so appreciative, and that's definitely why a lot of those decks do end up sitting on the shelf for a lot longer than desired.
It's important to have an alternate commander for the people who aren't cool with that. I think most Boros decks probably have a more busted Boros legend that they could put in the command zone. Yeah,
how about I just play Winota? There we go. I don't have to play anything else, But that's not what I'm looking for, and that's what most people aren't really looking for anyway, which is why they do that, But yeah, Rule 0. Obviously, I think probably one of the big takeaway very often is that, especially with Sheldon's passing, is that, you had a very public figure who did advocate for play where people can basically do whatever they wanted in a Commander game as long as everyone agreed to it and wanted to give the tools to do so. But some people are like, what are these guidelines or these rules? And he's like, man, I just wanted to create a guideline that everyone could follow so that way, they're not running busted cards without openly declaring that they're running busted cards that need to be banned, It's, it is a nuanced discussion. Discuss it like adults, please and thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Be normal, Lamau.
Be normal. Or as normal as you can reasonably be,
Alright, tell me about games you've played recently.
Alright, let's go to that. That's a much better subject. Lots of games these last couple weeks. Got to play with... I don't even know how to describe it. Got to play with a regular play group on Sunday. Got to play with the new group that I've been invited to, and also got to get another game of Killer Queen in.
Nice.
General consensus, as usual, very fun. People are having a great time making considerations. Just from an observer standpoint, it allowed me to make a few new cuts here and there, add a few new fun things, and it's also an experience to have people with different relative levels of experience play that game, because they either, and I guess maybe this could be another branch out conversation here afterward, is that you have people who have been playing Commander consistently for the last few years, but they've been playing Magic for 20 years or whatever. You have people who play they played in the 90s, took the longest break, started playing again recently. They haven't played Commander a whole lot, and this is a Commander variant, and they're like, what the fuck is this? What is that? This artwork looks amazing. Hold on, how does this work? Wait, they printed this? And it's just, it's always a joy to experience, whether it's new players or old players coming back into it or being like, what is happening? So that was pretty fun this weekend. Got to play, like I mentioned, Mr. Orfeo the Boulder. Did big smash, big dumb things. Got to play Sauron the Lidless Eye for the first time in a while. And had a very strong... what was the term I'm looking for? I guess this has been a while. It had a good game after being on the shelf for the last little bit.
Nice.
Once again, do not doubt the power of Rakdos Sauron. Everyone likes their Lord of the Rings and all that other stuff, but don't fall for that Grixis Mean Girl shit. Follow the Rakdos bullshit. That's what we're here for. And yeah, had a lot of fun with that. Being on the receiving end of an Ukima, between the Ukima Khazor pair. Khazor never gets played. No one wants that. No one cares. It's all about Ukima. It's all about that whale wolf and how much damage it can do to you and how much life that player can gain.
God, what a cool card.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? As it turns out, that set... I say that set, but then I'm like, it's Ikoria. Ikoria just had a lot of cool creatures come out of that set, as well as really cool... subtype combinations that just would never have existed.
Yeah, this is an Ikoria fangirl safe space, and that's at whipped ass, and I heart emojis for all of it.
Yeah. And then I guess kind of one of the other products that kind of came from the discussion, or from this recent weekend relatively, is that we're obviously so used to having 4-player games. Just through the power of technology. Spell Table helps reinforce it because it only has 4 screens. Mm-hmm. And most people find that it's kind of like a D&D, trying to get a D&D party together, is that you have too many people and things go down to a slog, and you had too few people and you kind of run into the 1v1 magic issue where if someone runs ahead, the other people might not be able to compensate. Mm-hmm. And, which is why some 5-player variants of Kingdom Hidden Rules, if you're in one corner of the star, 5 people, the 2 opposite you are your opponents, but they are allies with the people who are adjacent to them. So got to play some of that over the last few months, and it's not my preferred way to play, but it is a different way to play Magic than just your traditional Commander setup. But 4 players always optimal.
Yeah, I mostly play over spell tables, so I don't have a whole lot of opportunity to do the 5-player Magic thing. But the couple of times that I've done that in person, it's fine. It's not the worst thing in the world, and doesn't necessarily need the kingdoms or star rules, although that can make for a different experience if that's what you're looking for. Just playing normal Commander with 5 people is fine and enjoyable, and people should try it occasionally. Yeah.
One last thing, I guess, before I'll just pass off to you, is that with the other play group that I usually go to my LGS for, we just only had 4 people, but some poor random came by. He's like, you guys looking for a 5th? We're like, no, we're also in the middle of the game, and we're probably going to head out after this. It's just, when it comes to trusted play versus untrusted, it's better for us to stick to that 4-player pod just to make sure we're either not going to get bamboozled by the random stranger, or we're not going to bamboozle them with our typical play group bullshit, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah. IRL games of Magic have been pretty good. Got to have an offline game yesterday. And when you're not on stream and there's no expectations, it's great. It's stress-free. You can be like, cool, I'm going to go grab a drink. No responses. I don't have to worry about performing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. I think I skimmed over a few things, but I've talked enough. What's up with you? What's happened recently?
So most recently we played some Lost Caverns of Ixalan pre-con games. I had played the Pirates, I think, previously. No, Dinosaurs. I played Dinosaurs previously, and then I built Don Andres, so I've played that, like, bundle of cards, I guess. But most recently we played the Blood Rites deck with Clavileño, First of the Blessed. And we played that twice and did the game plan of attack with vampires, make them like into demons, and then when they die, you make more demons. In both of those games, though, that like the speed at which that happened was not enough to keep up with the speed at which the green decks were doing their thing. Wow, Merfolk and Dinosaurs. Those decks cook. They go off.
Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah, so I want to get in some more games, I think, with Blood Rites and maybe edit that to either focus in on that game plan and make it happen more consistently or figure something else out with that. It's got a, like, cool idea. I like to, like, bestow the blessings of Aquazats on my guys and then, like, when they die, make that 4/3 vampire demon. Like, the flavor is awesome. I just need to figure out how to, like, get enough of those bodies that it's relevant and like have it happen fast enough that it's relevant.
Yeah, when it comes to the pre-con legendary creatures specifically, like the new face cards, I found, like, obviously, oh shoot, there are also names that I'm gonna horribly mispronounce, but I definitely can't really recall the dinosaur one off the top of my head.
Pantlaza.
Pantlaza, like, what a cracked dinosaur.
Yeah, hey, free spell's good. More at 11.
Like, who knew Discover... People are already talking about how Discover will probably be banned in, like, Modern, like, some of the cards that do that, just because of the combination of how it interacts with even Cascade. So, it's just an ETB trigger. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, it's monstrous.
Yeah, I have no idea what they're up to in those formats with that, but in Commander, I have played against a Pantlaza Flicker deck, and it's got every one of those, like, Ephemerate, Slip on the Ring, like, all of those, like, exile target creature and return it to the battlefield under your control, and you just point that at Pantlaza and play, like, Impact Tremors and Perforos and all of those effects. And then Pantlaza enters the battlefield and you cast another free flicker effect. You trigger all of your, like, impact tremors and that stuff. And
yeah, impact tremor adjacent, yeah.
Panharmonicon, so when you enter, you're burning the table for twice as much. It's a good deck and it goes hard.
Yeah, and I played against the Merfolk deck a couple times this weekend. Turns out, with even just some minor modifications from the main set itself, like, you just keep Lost Caverns of Ixalan only cards for, like, the pre-con, and then, like, whatever else you want. Yeah, pretty good. Like, kind of busted, not really surprising, but just, you very quickly grow your fish army, and then you somehow make them, like, unblockable or trample over, and you're like, so I have an army of, like, 20 plus power coming at me between, like, 3 bodies. I guess the fish win this time.
Man, they put Hardened Scales and Thassa, God of the Sea, just right there in the deck. So I'm just like, I'm demoing my +1/+1 counters. I have a button here that says this creature can't be blocked. Also, there's, like, Herald of Secret Streams, who's just like, my whole squad has been exploring. So
they just got +1 counters. We good to go.
You're dead.
You just die. It's been pretty ridiculous.
Explore is actually like a lot stronger than I had given it credit for the first time I saw it around in Ixalan. I was just like not valuing putting lands in your hand that highly, but having spent a lot more time playing the game, being able to hit your land drop every turn is the strongest thing that you can do damn near, and it lets you do that, and it's also got the green mana nonsense of I'm going to play multiple lands because I have them, and the text on this card says that I can. And so you get to play more magic per magic, basically, and when you can do that, then you quickly snowball out of control.
So anyway, we just go right back into Simic is bullshit, and then they decide to add a fish on top of it, and you're like, all right, merfolk are kind of cracked, this is pretty great. The fish is cute, though, so... Someone explained to me, they're like, so yeah, Explore is better Surveil. Because at least some versions of the card you like, or some, depending on what's on top, you either put the card in your hand, a land, or you put a +1 counter. And then depending on your combination of merfolk that say, when you explore again, or the explore happens twice, or all your merfolk explore on combat, and you're like... Can you please stop exploring and leaving that one busted card on top so your army guaranteed pops off? Like, it's pretty messed up.
Yeah, those fish are quite synergistic, so I guess the way to take that plan apart is to, like, focus on a key synergy piece and kill that, but I haven't figured out how to have the right cards in hand to make that happen, and
just run more removal, Quinn, obviously, that's just the answer.
No, you have to
No, it's not how it works. Yeah, no, it's just, you sometimes just don't have the answer, and sometimes we just need to accept that. Yeah. But also pay your taxes, too. I'm
doing my best. I'm paying for that heuristic study. I'm tired of losing games to it.
So, speaking of all these new cards, and more specifically, like, the Vampire Precon and everything, I'm having the biggest moment of sort of upcoming projects or decks that I made recently. So I obviously made Dargo, the Shipwrecker, and Francisco, as I mentioned earlier. Very light on pirates, very heavy on the goal of getting Dargo and Francisco out, so I can at least, take Green's part of the Explore color pie and enjoy it within the confines of Rakdos. And that was an easy thing to put together. I took apart a deck. I'm still focusing on using treasures and stuff to try to get Dargo out early. Who knows where that deck's going to go, but I've had a good time so far. But I'm having a moment where I want to take apart one of my two Orzhov decks, and it's around Furia, Angel of Justice, or whatever. It's from Christ.
Kaldheim?
There's so many sets. I'm suddenly blanking and tanking super hard right now.
I'm pretty sure it's Kaldheim.
Yeah, it's Kaldheim. Yes. And, it's a 5-mana commander, and it's an uncommon, but I've realized that I haven't played it in a very long time. And I'm kind of reaching the limits of what's enjoyable about it. So I was thinking, I'm like, okay, what am I going to swap it over to? And right off the bat, my first thought was initially Carmen Cruel Skymarcher. An evasive creature, basically an attack trigger only, Sun Titan, depending on what the power of Carmen is at the time. And then whenever anyone sacrifices a permanent treasure, put a +1 counter on Carmen, you gain 1 life. But then I'm also of two minds when it comes to Veto, Fanatic of Alkalot. Oh, shit. Aclazotz. You think it would be easier, but I'm just staring at it and trying to... bleh. But the idea of trying to sacrifice 3 permanents within a turn cycle, and even if it's not even your own turn cycle, and the only thing I can think of is getting Anointed Procession out, so when I finally do get that 3rd pop-up, and getting 2 4/3 Vampire Demons, that is the only thing that's somehow, making me consider Veto over Carmen. But I still don't know yet, and I still got to think about it for a long time. But yeah, they did a good job when it comes to, like, hey, what do you want this set? Do you want dinosaurs? You got it. You want vampires? You got it. You want merfolk? You definitely got it. There's way too many options.
I do really like the demon, like, it's not like demon support, but it is kind of demon support of things like that make more demons. Specifically, I think Promise of Aclazotz, the enchantment, I think, with an adventure. It makes a 4/3 demon, and then, like, the actual card populates, like, ideally the 4/3 demon token that you just made. But I think that tech is pretty cool, and they're doing some cool things with tokens.
Yeah, like March of the Canonized from the same deck, of just having, like, an X value make that many 1/1 vampires for, like, you know, double white and X, and then depending on your devotion, you can start making more 4/3s. Like, I just think one of the things that I've always liked about Ixalan is that even if the built-in typal strategies were kind of hit or miss depending on you're playing in standard, or you were doing draft, or you just got the commander decks or made something out of it, like, it's all very flavorful, all very cool, slightly problematic when it comes to the invasive vampire conquistadors in like a Mesoamerican theme set. But god damn it, those vampires are so cool.
Yeah, the swag is unparalleled on the look of this set. Like, all of the art is absolutely beautiful. Fucking, they snapped and nailed it.
Yeah. So I initially thought that I was kind of, like, just going to pick up a lot of cards from the set to use in the 99. But after further consideration, and then also seeing people play with some of the cards, definitely will be looking forward to trying to make a deck out of some legend in this set. That is not just Francisco as part of a commander pair, because there is a lot of, as usual, I'm very excited about things. Shocking. It's Magic. It's a great time to be a Magic player.
A Magic player enjoys Magic and playing Magic more at 11.
And then,
Speaking of being impressed by cards that you've seen, though, I played against a Carmen Cruel Sky Marcher deck who you just mentioned you were thinking of, so here's a, like, testament to her power or whatever. Homegirl is a wild Magic the Gathering card. They put the flying right on her, and anytime a player, like you included, sacrifices something, she gains a life and gets a +1/+1 counter. So, first off, the treasure anti-treasure metagame, it's starting to get real, in the form of her in particular, who is a commander, so I can make her big enough and turn her sideways at you, and if you don't have an answer, you're simply dead.
You're dying. Yeah.
You don't have the ability to go off with treasures anymore. You can also, another card from the Vampires deck is Charismatic Conqueror.
You know, the one card that was, like, getting real big waves when people were reading what it can do?
Yeah, I played against that in that same deck, and it actually is effective at making the things... It's effective treasure hate, because I made a bunch of treasures with a Stolen Smothering Tithe, and the Carmen player at the Benoit, who had the Carmen and the Charismatic Conqueror, as well as, I think, a free sack outlet. I was just like, I am going to make every one of these treasures tapped, because I'm not going to give you a free body
I'm
to
not
sacrifice
feeding
to
you
Carmen.
bodies for this, yeah.
I'm just like, okay, they have set this up so that making these enter tapped is extremely what you want to be doing, and that makes it an effective hate piece. So I'm really pleased to see that and how it's performing so far. The other really cool piece in that deck was Tarian Soul Cleaver, which is sort of the same thing. Whenever I think you sacrifice an artifact or Let me actually just pull up the card text for now.
Yeah, I got it. So it's a 1-mana or legendary artifact where the equipped creature has vigilance. And whenever another artifact or creature is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1 counter on equipped creature with equip for 2. That adds up super quick.
That's the same thing with, like, Treasure Hate. You're, like, looking at Tarion Soulcleaver, you're looking at Carmen, you're looking at their life total versus yours, and you're just like, how bad do I need this mana versus how big they're going to make the creature that Tarion Soulcleaver is equipped to, because that's a +1/+1 counter whenever another artifact or creature dies. It's like... And if you're making a bunch of treasures or, like, trying to feed your Jund Sacrifice engine or whatever, it's a real, like, consideration that you have to make now is, like, how much do I want to feed this Soul Cleaver? Can I take it if they decide to turn this creature sideways at me? I'm not sure. Not always, gamers. And it's a 1-drop, so you can find it off of Urza's Saga in the same, like, package as your Shadow Spear and your Pithing Needle to turn off Skull Clamps that I hate. You know, it's real good.
I will let you know once again that I did take out someone's Skull Clamp for you. Just because I looked at their board and I'm like, oh, you're playing Sacrifice? How about no? And they're like, I didn't get to use it. I'm like, good. I understand. And then I was low-key like, I can't wait to play my own.
And then you tweeted about it, which is salutes. It's exactly what you're supposed to do. I always blow up the Skull Clamp and then tweet exactly how I did it.
Should have elaborated, but it was definitely just some, like, targeted removal of, like, destroy target artifact. And I was like, get it out of here. Goodbye. And they're like, oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, a really strong Magic the Gathering card. Very satisfied to brick.
Yeah, when it comes to very, there's just the entirety of Lost Caverns has a lot of really cool utility cards just across the board. I think I added 5 or 6 new cards to Audric Bloodcurse recently. Mm-hmm. And one of the cards that also kind of coincidentally happened to go with one of the games that I was playing this weekend, for the offline game, someone was running. Let me just find it real quick. No, not Geo. That's the flip side of it. It was Dowsing Rod or Dowsing Device. It's an uncommon for 1 and a red, and whenever it or another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, up to 1 target creature you control gets +1/+0, and also gains haste until end of turn, and then if you have 4 or more artifacts, you transform it into Geode Grotto, which is a land, taps for red, and then you can pay 2 and a red, tap it, till end of turn, target creature gains haste, gets +X/+0 until end of turn for the number of artifacts you control activate only as a sorcery, which is good because if we're not running into Kessig Wolfriend situations again, but in Audric in particular, it's been an absolute house. And another card that I had added into the deck, the very humble Miner's Guidewing, which is a 1-mana bird with flying and vigilance. So I got 2 keywords for Bloodrick, and it's a 1/1. Whenever it dies, target creature you control explores. So it didn't die for the longest time, but what I was doing was, I was like, okay, so Audric Bloodcurse gets flickered, ETB, put enough blood tokens out to flip the dagger, or the dowsing thing, but the triggers are still on the stack. That Miner's Guidewing is going to become a 7/1. I'm going to hit you, and then I'm going to flip this land, and then the next turn, I got a few more blood tokens. I'm going to make the Guidewing like a 10, and then attack you. And everyone's like, what the fuck is going on here? Mm-hmm. So Miner's Guidewing, NT Seneschal of the Sun.
That card looks really good. I'm excited to see how that works out for you. Tell me about him.
Just hey, whenever you attack, you may discard a card, put a +1 counter on target attacking creature, gains trample until end of turn. Has not come up yet, but the other half has. Whenever you discard 1 or more cards, exile the top card of your library, you may play that card until your next end step. So as it turns out, and I think we've talked about this very briefly, when you crack a blood token, you discard a card and you draw a card. But if I'm paying 1, sacking one of those to effectively draw 2 cards for that instance, pretty good value. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you can keep using it until you're, you can do that until your next end step. So if you do it on someone else's turn, it's just great. and broadside bombardiers, which
that looks so good.
Apparently is like a legacy card now or something, just because
no,
that card is like coming up $15 now.
What? No, that was bulk when I looked. I should have picked
it
up.
is. It was. I got it for like $250 at my LGS, so I managed to scoop the one, and now I am in shock. Yeah. Oh, the visceral reaction.
I'm so salty because it was going to be perfect for my Hensi deck. I would turn
it would have been great for
Hensi. I can eat something that I'm not attacking with that I spent a bunch of mana on, but I blitzed. So I'm just like, here's this 7 like burn that you're taking because I'm sacrificing this Indrik Stomp Howler or whatever.
It's just, So I'm sorry that you had to miss out. I don't think really anyone anticipated. But let's talk about the card for a second here. So out of the Grixis Pirate deck, you got a 2 and a red Pirate Goblin for 2/2 with Menace and Haste. So again, I'm meeting criteria with 2 keywords, which is great. Menace doesn't really show up a whole lot in my deck, but it's pretty good to get it early. And it has the boast ability of you can sacrifice another creature, an artifact, so the Bombardiers deals damage equal to 2 plus the mana value of the sacrifice permanent. But you can only do this after you've declared attacker as Nero. Oh my god, calm down, dude. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know, it's a great, exciting card, but you don't have to scram about it. But yeah, you can only activate it if it has attacked, and only once each turn. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, people were like, oh my god, you can just chain sacrifices. I'm like, did we learn nothing from Kaldheim? Like, this is not how this works.
Yeah, you gotta look at the like a base printing of that particular card, the one that comes in the precon where you're most likely going to see it, because that's the one that has the reminder text. The other one is for people who already know what it says.
Yeah. But needless to say, my personal baseline of play with this card is sack a blood token. Because any damage in this deck, direct or indirect, is great. And being able to throw around 2 damage arbitrarily is fantastic.
It goes to any target, right?
Yeah, it goes to any target. So you want to take
wild oppressive with that and shoot my Timna every time I play her.
Why would you give me that idea?
Because I'm a villain sometimes, and also
you're a villain all the time. Don't even give me that.
Okay, yeah, fine. I'm a villain. Sometimes you have to say the worst thing that could happen into the ether.
But also kind of coincidentally, I had to reread Orm's Thunder after putting it in the deck a while back.
Now you have to read it for me. What? Okay,
so as Eternal Online Discourse of Magic the Gathering usually involves play more removal, play more lands, don't pay your Rhystic Studies, like pay for your Rhystic Study taxes, blah, blah, blah. As I was trying to adjust and change Odric Blood Curse to kind of like accommodate, to be as relatively flexible as possible while still not compromising my vision of playing a bunch of creatures with keywords and smashing people in the face and making a bunch of blood tokens. The removal package had been modified over time, and I've tried to trim the fat and still try to keep enough stuff in here that's been relevant. And one of these cards that managed to make the cut, and I'm still probably going to keep it in even after reading it, is Orm's Thunder. Got reprinted in the recent Masters set, I think. 2 and a white for an instant with Kicker Red. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. If the spell is kicked, it deals damage equal to that permanent's mana value to target creature. Which can be any combination of, I'll take out your Bolas' Citadel, but I'm going to target my other opponent's bullshit creature, and I kick it. Removal obviously comes in many different shapes and forms. Usually prefer it to be 1 or 2 mana and instant speed. And, why didn't I put Get Lost in this deck yet? I'm still trying to trim that down too, because Get Lost is hilarious. But I wanted to add more direct or indirect damage-based things to the deck, and swapping out a Chroma Vision of Ixidor and putting in Gisela Blade of Gold Knight was one of my ways of trying to capitalize on that. where, yes, a chroma can pump my board equal to the number of keywords that they have on themselves, while Gisela just says flat out, double the damage being dealt to your opponents, half the damage you or a permanent are being dealt by half rounded up. You're like, okay, cool. So,
yeah, I feel like the math on that is pretty similar.
Yeah. But then I'm like, okay, so you get your Hedron Detonator, you get your Broadside Bombardiers, you get your Reckless Fire Weavers, and so on, so on, so on. So a lot of more indirect ways for me to do it, and the new set just helped me do that more and more and more. Yeah, Audric Bloodcurse. As usual, I will continue Bloodric posting till the end of time. If I no longer do it, I am dead. And yeah, I've just even the recent deck changes showing it off with people who are unfamiliar with the card. I'm still even trying to put a cut in for Terrian Soul Cleaver because it gives a keyword, but also making your stuff potentially really big, just circumstantially, is just great.
I think there's another new guy that would be good in that deck too. It's like it wants you to tap 2 untapped artifacts and it deals 1 damage to each opponent. It's
but
like
the problem with that card, I think I know which one you're talking about, is that it can only be activated once each turn.
What?
Yeah, so I'm better off putting in Garapur Aether Grid than
hang on. It's Sunshot Militia. Tapped 2 untapped artifacts and or creatures you control. Sunshot Militia deals 1 damage to each opponent. Activate only as a sorcery. So you can do it okay, so you can do it more than once per turn, but it's only on your turn, and there's no, like, holding the table hostage with your Garapur Aether Grid that you're going to point at all of their creatures or whatever.
Yeah, but I'd rather do that. I would rather want to be able to do that. Like, this is the thing. There was this... every time that I have a Magic player on Twitter complain about how a card is being restricted by... activate only once per turn, activate at sorcery speed, yada yada, like all these quote-unquote restrictions. But the restrictions are on a lot of these cards to begin with. If you got a Sunshot Militia in your limited pool, and I would like to just, like, it is a common, if that just had, like, if it just had activate as a sorcery gone, this thing is busted. Just straight up, for 2 mana. And you could you could have like your vigilance turn of like your whole board has vigilance. You attack out, and then you're like, cool. I will now tap everything to laser beam you to death. You know, which is why, while I do agree, Sunshot Militia could make the cut. That restriction I do acknowledge needs to be there, and that prevents me from playing the card. I also wish it had an arbitrary keyword, but then again, we're pushing what this card is capable of doing. Yeah. But as I was saying, like every time people are complaining about like those types of restrictions, I feel as if they're either their goals are obviously very different than what I want out of a Magic game, but they want it at such a radical degree that I'm like, are we playing the same game? Like, what is happening here?
No, you're not. You're playing a board game that you individually make with each of the players at the table every time you go to play Commander. And frankly, no, other people who are playing 4 different decks are not playing exactly the same board game as you.
Yeah. They're just like, why can't red or white get this really niche counterspell ability? And I'm like, hold on a minute here, take off the Scooby-Doo mask. I'm like, the Hermit Druid playing Dargo and Tibna. What? He's like, don't look at me. Yeah, it's just like every time something...
People want what they want for their decks, and every once in a while they get it.
I don't know. I guess... the only thing I would have say to that is, hey, make your own Audric Bloodcursed-like deck. Be like Lenny Woolley, for example, and who makes Shield of Emeria. I'm forgetting her name.
Commander of the Seagate Air Force.
Yes. Which, speaking of, maybe this should be a transition to the part of the podcast that is, the goal of whether or not your commander passes the vibe check. I'd put as part of being the producer of the show,
mm-hmm.
and the editor, and the marketer. Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I usually had put up through podcasters on Spotify is a question that people are able to ask on Spotify only. I imagine, I wish it was for other podcast sources, for like the 20 random ass podcast sources we have. But 4 people managed to get back to us through Spotify, and then a lot more people got back to us on Twitter. And Lanny Woolley, of course, immediately commented, "Hey, Linvala Shield of Seagate." And the answer is yes, Lenny. Linvala does pass the Hero's Blade vibe check. I know what the deck is like, but I also know like the theory of having like an aggressive flyers base Azorius deck is great, but also having a 3-mana 3/3 flying creature that can also become a 6/5 and start swinging out, and then also being like, oh, whoop, I sacrificed myself so you can't do the thing to me. That's powerful. That's exactly what we're looking for when it comes to like these types of discussions.
Hey, yo, she actually really does pass the vibe check, because like even though she dies, when you sacrifice her to protect your board's protected, and then when you recast her, she picks up the knife again, and we're already good to go.
Yeah, it's Play more Linvala, everyone. Go listen to the Linvala episode of the Uncommon Commander podcast that doesn't exist anymore. Lenny is like
her in the 99 of my 4-color dungeon party deck, and she's real good at ensuring that my board state stays on the board. And she occasionally gets to do her party thing, which you never get to see.
Yeah, like Just as a reminder, people, some commanders have different lines of text when you look at it. It's like, a lot of people are like, wait, what else does it do? It's like, when this happens, XYZ happens. They're like, oh, I didn't know that. It's like, yeah, there's too many commanders. Like, every time people are like, yo, what does Bergi, God of Stories, do? You're allowed to double your boasts. Wait, what? Yeah, it's not just a mana producer and maybe the horn on the other side of the card, you know? But yeah, Linvala definitely passes the vibe check here. Lynn. I'm going to go on a limb here and say that's Lynn off of Twitter. I just don't remember the podcast off the top of my head. Check Your Bulk podcast. A few episodes were out. And then I was like, oh wait, this is definitely Lynn, because Lynn just simply put Gorex the Tomb Shell.
Yes.
Which just give me uno momento here, because then Gorex got downshifted and then I stopped the podcast, so go figure. Gorex the Tomb Shell was originally from the Innistrad Crimson Vow or Midnight Hunt like commander decks. 6 and double black for a zombie turtle that's a 4/4. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you may exile any number of creature cards from your graveyard. It reduces the cost of the spell by 2 for each card. Exiled this way, it's got Death Touch. And whenever it attacks or dies, choose a card at random, exiled with Gorex, and put that card into its owner's hand. So you could theoretically, if the stars aligned, get your 2-mana 6/5 with Death Touch that's also bringing cards back to your hand so you can replay them. Gorex does pass the vibe check by like a country mile. It's crazy.
Yeah, dude, anytime a 4/4 is like asked if it passes the vibe check, it probably does. Especially because this guy wants to be attacking already. Like, you want your 7 power commander to be turning sideways. Because 3-hit clock. 3-hit clock.
We do love seeing the magic number 7 on a magic card. It's amazing. And also turns out, hey, for all the people that I've heard, like, be like, I don't like doing combat. Cool, so I kill you in 3 turns if you don't answer this. Like, hello? Like, get calm down.
Combat is so important to me. Literally, turning guys sideways is like prayer.
If I wouldn't print I wouldn't get, like, ink done on me for the Boros Legion, but I'm heavily tempted just because how heavily associated they are with just, like, oh, you're playing a Boros combat deck? Oh, God. Okay, so what is it? Like Aurelia or whatever? Like, come on. We're like, yes. First of all, leave me alone. Second of all, take 20. They're like, fine, I take 20.
I was just thinking about that the other day of the like meme with a person looking at somebody who's got like a plate full of clovers, and the clovers are labeled like Boros combat commanders, and it goes back to the person looking at them and they're like disgusted, but then the camera zooms in on the other person and they've got just like a mouthful of clovers and a smile on. They're just like labeled Boros mages, and it's just like maybe Boros combat commanders aren't for everybody, but the Boros mages that like them, they really fucking like them.
Hey, I do love me some Boros spell slinging, especially because that was part of a sub theme of Killer Queen, especially with like I love casting Lightning Helix in all Lightning Helix variants. That is a fun thing to do. I
also love casting Lightning Helix, and that's why in the early stages of my Period of the Volatile deck, I had like 5 different Lightning Helix variants.
Oh, yeah. Did you get Smiting Helix, the one with the flashback?
I didn't have that one on hand to play, but I had like 2 of the actual angels or whatever that like attack and do the Lightning Helix.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Jeez. I'm thinking of the battalion one that I can't remember off the top of my head. I absolutely love that one. It even had like alternate artwork done as like a game day promo back during Return to Ravnica block. And everyone's like, yeah, this card sucks. I'm like, shut the fuck up. It does Lightning Helix. I put that in Ishin Two Heavens' 1 double Lightning Helix trigger. Like, deal with it.
Pew.
It's never doubt that. This is done a couple times, and maybe it's done by the same person. Nick, no additional name, just simply put Zetalpa.
Before we get there, I do want to just... The Gorix the Tomb Shell was originally printed in Midnight Hunt Commander. Just needed to get that on the record.
Yeah, going from a rare to an uncommon over the course of like 2 years approximately for like a brand new card that wasn't even in like a standard set is just like hilarious to me.
Yeah, that's wild. All right, let's talk about Zetalpa.
Yeah, I actually think this was Nick, aka Played Clad on Twitter.
I think it's Plaid.
Plaid, fuck. God damn it. I'm Canadian, you'd think I would know it.
Anyway, 1-800, are you flapping?
Double slapping.
No napping.
Unflappable.
What an incredible Magic the Gathering card. And once again, a 4-power commander. That picks up the knife, immediately goes to 7, and Zetalpa, as we stated, double flapping. She's got double strike, so that's a 2-turn clock. You have 2 combats, and if you don't answer it in the first one, you're probably dead, kiddo. And you know what? For the amount of mana that you have to spend to put Zetalpa on the battlefield, I think that's appropriate.
And to make a twist on the tweet Nick put, the flappin' will continue until alternate art appears. Because, like, why did they not do that? I can't believe that. But yeah, Zetalpa definitely passes the vibe check.
I'm glad we got the etched foil Zetalpa, but I would like to see an alternate art, widescreen, borderless, all the fancy treatments. Give me all of that.
It's like, all right, here's the 0.5 version of alt art. We're like, okay, we'll take an alt frame, I guess, but, you know, we're on thin ice here. Long-time listener, through the power of Spotify, Braden, says here, great first episode, gotta submit the vibe check for Kodama of the South Tree.
Oh man, alright, let me look that one up.
Brewed that deck quite a few months back, dubbed Absinthe.deck. Green Spirits. Curious if it can wield the blade.
Alright, so Kodama of the South Tree is a legendary creature spirit 4/4 for 2 green, who says, whenever you play spirit or arcane spell, each other creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. What do we think, gamers? Does that pass the vibe check?
See, because when you say green spirits, like, I'm just going to take a quick search here, because, like, off the top of my head, there's not that many that aren't just also named Kodama, you know?
I think we'll find that there are quite a few green spirits.
Maybe. Cut that out. Edit that out, future me.
Yeah, there's well over 60 of them. I'm sure there's plenty of them that we can actually cut to find just the best ones, and all of those are probably very good in that deck. Plus, you get to play arcane spells.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's just really talk about it. It's like, if we're talking about a deck that it's like, okay, other creatures you're controlling are getting evasion, then also making, again, we're going to get up to 7 power. It's a 7/6. Like, yes. I would say in this case, if you're creating it's a thematic deck and you want a deck that wants to get in there and turn creatures sideways, first of all, absolutely love it. Yeah, I would say in this case, this version of Kodama definitely passes the vibe check. You just love getting in there, and you're probably also giving your creature some kind of evasion too.
Okay, check this out. Kodama, it picks up the Hero's Blade, and then it sits on the Dragon Throne of Tarkir, and you're using that buff to increase the power of your creatures that you're already playing so that you can go wide even more and make the number go up.
I do love me some Dragon Throne of Tarkir. I've seen it a few times. I played it a few times. Every time people are like, sorry, I want you to read that again. What are you talking about? And, yeah, so Dragon Throne of Tarkir is a 4-mana legendary artifact equipment where the creature is defender. You pay 2, and gains, pay 2, tap other creatures you control, gain trample, gets +X/+X until at a turn where this creature's power with equip for 3. So, yes, you pay 9 mana to give your board +X and then turn your creature into an overglorified defender, but you are also able to do that every turn. So, it adds up.
I feel like if you're doing it right, though, you should only need 1 turn.
Yeah, you should. The big
I've seen
haymaker
that used in Traxos Scourge of Krug decks, where you can put him on the Dragon Throne and cast historic spells to untap him and tap him again and make your robot army even bigger. It's sick as hell. I think the other cool place that you can play it is in decks that use Thornbite Staff, so like a Marrow can probably sit on the Dragon Throne pretty well.
Last few mentions, probably before we should wrap it up, because we are once again hitting over an hour, but that's what we're all here for.
Yeah, we out here chatting.
Lenny double booked himself, and he put in on Twitter, Danitha New Benalia's Light from Aftermath. 1 green and a white for a human knight. That's a 2/2 with vigilance, trample, and lifelink. Once during each of your turns, you may cast an aura or equipment spell from your graveyard. So you go turn 1, whatever, turn 2, Hero's Blade, turn 3, Danitha. She is a 5/4 with a bunch of keywords. Yes. Duh.
Sounds good to me. Also, you blow the blade up and she just casts it from the graveyard, and now what are you gonna do?
Light, aka the Phyrexian, put in Pantlaza, Sun's Favored, saying, didn't think this over till now.
Yeah, if you're not blinking Pants, you can turn her sideways and boom, 7 power again, like we talked about, that magic number.
And you can stack the auto-equip trigger to Pantlaza's ability of Discover, so you have the Hero's Blade equipped first on the stack, then she becomes a 7/6, so you discover for 6.
Oh, sick, yeah. That's even better than I thought.
You're like, cool, so we're just doing it. You're like, no, do this first. You're like, oh, yeah, no. Hero's Blade, the stack matters. Think about it. At the Benoit says, say the line, Bart, as he posts an image of Jury, Master of the Review. Yes, Jury passes the vibe check. What an
incredible choice for the Hero's Blade vibe check. Yeah, absolutely.
Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a +1 counter on Jury, and then if Jury dies, deals damage equal to its power to any target. Yeah, going from 1 to 4 is pretty good when you're kind of that low to the ground for a 2-mana commander.
Oh yeah. Jury is just sneaky strong and has a very similar text to Carmen Cruel Sky Marcher, so I think mages should probably approach both of those cards with a decent amount of caution. They're gonna get very big way faster than you're expecting.
Yeah. But yeah, quite a substantial turnout in terms of commentary from people in the community as well as Spotify. So everyone, thank you for your contributions for this episode. We'll go over a few more as episodes come out in the future.
Yeah, thanks so much for hanging with us, gamers, and giving us your feedback. We appreciate it.
All right. Anything else to say before we wrap up the episode?
Mono Black Ashnod continues to be very cool, and that making Power Stone machine real nice.
I do recall your tweet about enchantment removal in Mono Black, which I was laughing at because you did the tweet one night and then the next day you were like, so as it turns out...
Yeah, so I was talking about adding a 6-mana beholder to a black mana deck and calling it enchantment removal, and I put my money where my mouth is. I put the Baleful Beholder from AFR in my mono black Ashnod deck, and cast the Baleful Beholder, and when it entered the battlefield, had each opponent sacrifice a enchantment, and it ate 3 very impactful enchantments, one of which was a Luminarch Ascension. So now I'm just in this position of the haters can't tell me shit. I love my awful son.
Yeah, as we all know, Mono Black is notorious for not being able to destroy enchantments, and we've gotten a handful of effects over the last few years, including another variation of the Beholder, Ghastly Death Tyrant, where it enters, you can destroy an enchantment an opponent controls, you lose life to its mana value. Very much like... I had
that one in the first draft of the deck, too, and decided that 2 6-mana beholders was pushing it.
It's, yeah, you know, like, look, I already have enough room for one bad, quote-unquote, bad card that is now actually surprisingly pulling weight. But yeah, when it comes to Mono Black's choices, it is either very narrow, focuses on sacrifice, or is overcosted. But I'm glad to hear that you did manage to get the Magic Christmas Land scenario, because sometimes you just need it. Sometimes you just need that one, and you can show it off, and everyone goes like, I didn't see that coming.
I'm always saying this, the cards get printed for a reason, and sometimes the only way to find out is to put the card in a deck.
Yeah, try it out. Make like your own mini sideboard and be like, tonight I will try this, and then you'll see if it works out or not.
Yeah, so that was my final thing here. Do you have anything else to talk about for us?
Bloodrick and Killer Queen. That's it.
Hell yeah.
My obsessions continue. But yeah, good place to wrap it up, I would say.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I guess tell the people where they can find you online, Cole.
Yeah, you can find me over on Twitter at Uncommon Commander MTG. I believe that's also what it's called over on Blue Sky, as it's still in its infancy, and everyone's like, we're banning this website, but we're not. Not actually.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep logging in at the Bad Takes Factory until they turn the lights off on me.
Yeah, that's where you'll find me becoming Magic Twitter's unwilling shitposter and protagonist for the day. Please leave me alone. I don't do it intentionally.
All right, and I'm Empress Gwen. Find me on Twitter at Girldick Energy and in the Twitch chat at Girlredacted Energy. And just click all the links in the bio and see what we're up to there. We've got our Twitter for the podcast, HBVC_MTG, on the website, so find us out there.
And thank you for listening, everyone. You take care now.
Later, gamers.